Hi, my name is Sean Gates, and I'm here to talk about why are you still paying taxes if there's no law that says you have to pay taxes? Most of us are under the misconception that there's a law that we are forced to file a tax return. I encourage you to look up the facts, which are there is no law that says you have to file a tax return. Um, I am a living example of somebody who has liberated himself from not paying taxes for 4 years now, since 2014. When I discovered that there was no law, I simply sent a letter to the IRS asking them to provide me the law. So when they failed to provide me the law, that's when the red flag went off for me. Steve Miller is the former IRS commissioner. At a congressional hearing in 2013, he is stated he under a congressional hearing under oath, he states saying paying taxes is not mandatory but voluntary. So that means the income tax system as we know it is a voluntary basis. Of course, they're not coming out telling you this is voluntary because they need you to comply and give consent. So all this is done very shady, which makes IRS extremely fraudulent. But if you file a return and you sign it, you sign the bottom of that tax return, then you waive your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. So, which then makes it legal for the IRS to come after you, which in case happens to a lot of people. The IRS attempted to come after me by serving me a 30-day notice of intent, which is a levy against my bank account. I was able to stop them by one little letter, asking them to provide me the law. Because if there is no law, they don't have the right to pursue anything against you. So how is it that they're operating? Well, that's another video, I guess. But there's much disclosure on this. You can find this just about anywhere now. Particularly YouTube is a great alternative. There's a lot of people who are coming forward and have been speaking about this for some time. Sherry Jackson, she's a former IRS employee. She has come forward and now is a activist and speaks out about that there is no law that requires you to file a return. Also, Joe Bannister, he's also a former IRS enforcer who wore the gun and handcuffs and seized people's properties, as far as I know. He asked his superiors one day if where the law was that justifies them taking and seizing old people's homes and the like. When he asked his superiors this because he was unable to find it in the IRS library, they asked him to clear his desk out and he was fired. So anyways, there's several other people. Those are just a couple off the top of my head. There's others who actually have websites that have been active for many, many years now, giving rewards even if you could prove to them there's a law that shows that you have to file taxes, that you have to file a tax return. One of them being freedomlaw.com. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, well, if this is a contract, how can this be legal? Well, technically, it really isn't a contract, and for lack of a better term, I'll call it a contract, but I know a lot of other people who are IRS liberators won't agree with me on this, but for a lack of a better term, I'll just say it is a contract, because when you sign your name to it, in a sense, you're giving compliance without you really being aware of that. But how this works is the IRS system, among other things, is completely set up to get your compliance, to get you to freely, willfully, and voluntarily commit you to pay taxes. But they don't come forward and explain this to you, which is, again, makes them completely fraudulent, which then, in case in point, would make the contract null and void, because the contract at that point is bogus, and it's worthless, and it's completely fraudulent. So that's where others might differ with my opinion calling this a contract because it's bogus to begin with, so it's not really a contract. But anyways, it was very easy for me to close the contract with both the federal and the state. I simply asked them to. Under the Information Act, you as a taxpayer have the right to request information from the IRS, which is requesting information from you. And under this act, this Information Act, you can simply ask, please provide me the law that requires me to file a tax return. It's very simple. You're not committing any harm. And you would think if there was a law, they would actually oblige you by providing it. So when I asked the employee that worked for the IRS requesting, at the time I owed $22,000, I asked her if she could provide me the law, and she said she would get back to me. She never did. So I guess you can't provide something that doesn't exist, I suppose. So I pursued it even further. I've done a lot of homework on this. I've done a lot of research. I'm not the only one who's liberated themselves from not paying taxes. You know, a lot of people are under the misconception that IRS is a branch of the government, and I am here to tell you that it is not. You can look it up for yourself. It is not a branch of the government. It's owned by 3 families. And a lot of people are under the misconception that our tax money goes to great beneficial things like infrastructure and schooling and education. And as far as I can tell, none of it goes to any of that. As far as I know, that money goes to the military complex, industrial complex, goes to the secret military forces that are out there, the secret space ops and things of that nature, goes to chemtrail spraying, GMOs, and all kinds of other stuff that we have no idea because the public's not made aware of. But again, that's another video. So, again, I go back to the question, if there is no law requiring you to file a tax return, why are you paying taxes? I know a lot of people have a lot of fear, and we've all been programmed and conditioned to fear certain entities that reside over us, IRS being one of them. So once you overcome your fear and look at some facts, you'll be able to see that it was very, very easy for me to question the IRS, and then their silence is compliance in a court of law. So meaning if they don't object to what you're requesting, that means they agree. They comply. That's how it works. They comply. Whether they answer your questions or not, they comply. And it's very simple. That's how it works. Because they can't come forward. IRS isn't going to come forward and admit their fraud. They can't. They won't do that. They need your money. But like I said, once you challenge them and ask them to provide the law that doesn't exist, and also there's a lot of other things too. It's not. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But I'll have another video explaining in depth. They have to provide an OMB number. The only person who can make you file a return is the Secretary of State. Even in the IRS handbook, it states clearly that you don't even have to show your books or records, because if doing so, you incriminate yourself and you waive your 4th and 5th Amendment rights. See, they're not telling you all this, but this is just some information. So again, my name's Sean Gates, and I'm here to just give free advice. You do whatever you want with it. I don't expect you to agree with me. I expect you to do your own homework and see if this is something that you like to look into further on your own. All right. Thank you. Bye.